What's up, YouTube? Matt and Garrison here, and today we're going to be talking about the War of the Spark pre-release, what combat tricks and removal spells you need to play around in the format. So we're going to start off with the white cards here. So up first, we have Bond of Discipline. It is a 5-mana sorcery, and it reads, tap all creatures your opponents control. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn.
Next we have Defiant Strike. For 1, it's an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and you draw a card.
So one thing to note with Defiant Strike is don't be afraid to just use it on one of your opponent's creatures if you just need to draw a card. Don't be afraid to waste it. It's a cantrip for 1, which white doesn't really see that often. Next card we have Divine Arrow, which is 2 mana. It's an instant, and it deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. So it's just a removal spell to play around in combat that deals 4 damage.
Next you have Gideon's Sacrifice. It's a 1 mana instant. Choose a creature or planeswalker you control. All damage that will be dealt to this turn to you and permanents you control is dealt to the chosen permanent instead.
So it has a lot of text, but basically every point of damage that would be dealt to you or something you control is dealt to whatever you choose. So great to use it on an indestructible creature to save yourself. Next card we have is Gideon's Triumph, which is a 2 mana instant. Target opponent sacrifices a creature that attacked or blocked this turn, and if you control a Gideon planeswalker, they sacrifice 2 creatures instead. So it's worth noting that you can do this after combat because the creature's still technically attacked or blocked this turn. So once damage has been dealt, you get rid of all the creatures that may or may not die in combat, and then you can use this spell. It also allows you to leave up mana in case you want to cast a different instant before the end of the turn.
Next we have Rally of the Wings, which is a 2 mana instant. Untap all creatures you control, and creatures you control with flying get +2/+2 until end of turn. Thing to note with this is that if you have a Flyers deck, you're playing this card if you open it. It's just really good to be able to block something and combat on their turn, or just attack for lethal.
And next we have Ravnica at War, which is, it's a rare. It's 4 mana sorcery, exile all multicolored permanents. At rare, you don't really necessarily have to play around it because it's not too likely you'll play against it, but just be aware it's in the format.
Again, at rare, you have Single Combat, which is a 5 mana sorcery. Each player chooses a creature or planeswalker they control, then sacrifices the rest. And players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn.
And the next card we have is Topple the Statue, which is a 3 mana instant, and it reads, tap target permanent. If it's an artifact, destroy it, and then draw a card. And this is a common, so if you open 1 or 2 of them, it's not bad to play it. It functions as a cantrip, worst case scenario, and you can tap things down, and if they have an artifact, it destroys it. So it can function as a removal spell, or to just get rid of a blocker, or if they've got an artifact, I guess it destroys the artifact, never mind.
Next we have Wanderer's Strike. 5 mana sorcery that says exile target creature, then proliferate. Good thing about this is that it exiles the creature. Even if you don't get the proliferate, it's still good value in white.
And if you're playing against a black deck, there is reanimate spells in the format, so exiling key creatures is actually really, I guess, it can be really good against that deck. So we're going to move on to blue. And the first blue card we got is Crush Descent. It's a 4 mana counter spell, and it counters target spell unless its controller pays 2, and then it amasses 2. So it's a counter spell that makes a creature or grows the zombie army that you already have in play. So if you're playing against this, they're showing 4 mana up. You probably want to attack before you cast a spell for the turn, just in case they do have it, which is just good practice anyways against blue.
Next you have Kasmina's Transmutation, 2 mana enchantment that enchants a creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities. It has base power and toughness 1/1. It is a common, and if you're playing blue and you open this in multiples, you're playing the multiples. It's really good to get rid of anything that they have late game.
Next up we have Lazotep Plating. It's a 2 mana instant, amass 1. And then you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. So it's kind of like playing around Dive Down that's in standard now, but it makes a 1/1 or grows the zombie army that they already have.
Next is Narset's Reversal. 2-mana instant. It is a rare, so you probably wouldn't play around this until you saw it for the first time. But you do copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand, and you may choose new targets for that copy.
Next, we've got another counter spell, No Escape. It's a 3-mana counter, and it counters target creature or planeswalker spell, and then exiles it. And then the controller gets to scry 1. Well, the No Escapes controller gets to scry 1. So it's a really good counter spell. Most of the time you're playing creatures in limited, and in this limited you're going to be playing lots of planeswalkers. So it's probably going to hit anything you want.
Next is Teferi's Time Twist. It's 2-mana instant. It says exile target permanent you control, and then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. And if it enters the battlefield as a creature, it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it.
And the last blue spell that we're going to talk about is Totally Lost, which is a 5-mana instant, and it puts target non-land permanent on top of its owner's library. So it functions as a removal spell, and you got to remember that zombie armies are going to be a thing in this format, so it does actually just remove it from the game. But in addition to that, you can save your own permanents with it if you need to. And now we're going to move on to black spells. So the first one is the Elder Spell, which seems like a ridiculously powerful spell. So it is double black and it's a sorcery, but it destroys any number of target planeswalkers. So if that was just the text on the card, it would still be really good. But then after that happens, you can choose a planeswalker you control and put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed this way. You do not need to control a planeswalker to cast this. If you have uncommon planeswalkers, you can either reload them with more counters this way, or just throw them under the bus to load up a different planeswalker with counters. And obviously you're going to, destroy your opponent's planeswalkers too.
Next you have Finale of Eternity, that is black X. It is a sorcery and it is mythic, so you may not see too many of these, but it is out there. You get to destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less, and if X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield.
So if you open this, you basically have to play it. I mean, if you put 3 mana into this, you can destroy 3 1/1s or 3 2/2s with 4 mana. Like, it scales absurdly good. The next spell is Liliana's Triumph. It is a 2-mana instant, and it reads each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you control a Liliana planeswalker, they also discard a card. So not only does it not target the players, it gets around player hexproof, but since they're sacrificing a creature, it gets around indestructible and hexproof creatures as well.
Next is Massacre Girl for 5 mana. It is a legendary creature, but it is a 4/4 with Menace. When Massacre Girl enters the battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And then whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So something to remember is the fact that if they have some 1/1s on their side of the battlefield and you're playing this, that's going to trickle down. So if you do destroy some 1/1s, then it'll trigger again and you'll actually destroy some 2/2s.
And worth noting is that whenever a creature dies this turn, so you could play it pre-combat, something dies in combat, it triggers again. So it can get pretty absurd. And the next is Obnixilus's Cruelty, which is a 3-mana instant. Target creature gets -5/-5, and if it would die this turn, exile it instead. So this is a really good way to remove cards like Lyra in Standard, or
Just
Niv Mizzet, kills Niv Mizzet, exiles it. And it is a common, so if you open it in black, you're playing it.
And if your opponent's playing black,
They're probably playing it.
Next you have Price of Betrayal, which is 1 black sorcery. Remove up to 5 counters from target artifact, creature, planeswalker, or opponent. I don't think there's much outside of the planeswalker for the limited format, but it's actually just get rid of a lot.
You can kill planeswalkers with it, but you can also kill zombie armies with it.
Yep.
Remove all the counters from it, and it's a 0/0. Also, with Proliferate being in the format, people are going to be stacking 1/1 counters on the creatures, and this can shrink them back down to nothing, basically. The next spell is Sorin's Thirst, which is 2 black instant, and it deals 2 damage to target creature, and you gain 2 life. We've seen this card before, so it's a good one to play if you open it, if you're playing black.
Next card, Spark Harvest. It's a 1 black sorcery. It has additional cost to cast the spell. You either have to sacrifice a creature or pay 3 generic and 1 black. But you do get to destroy target creature or planeswalker. So even if you're paying full retail for it, you are playing 5, but you're destroying basically whatever you need to.
And the last card is Unlikely Aid, which is a 2 mana instant. And target creature gets +2/+0 and gains Indestructible until end of turn. And Indestructible is not an ability we see on black creatures very often, so it's something worth noting to play around. And now we're going to move on to red.
First we have Blind Blast, which is a 3 mana instant. Blind Blast deals 1 damage to target creature, and that creature can't block this turn. Then you draw a card. It's pretty good just being able to push in the last couple points of damage in red.
Yep, remove a 1 toughness creature, or again, just shoot something in cantrip if you need to find a better answer. And then we have Bolt Bend, which is a 4 mana instant. Costs 3 less to cast if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. And it changes the target of a spell or ability with a single target. So we've seen this before, Reverberate, cards like that.
Next is Bond of Passion. It's a 6 mana sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. And then Bond of Passion deals 2 damage to any other target.
So it's active treason with shock.
Yep.
And then we have Chandra's Pyro Helix, which is a 2 mana instant. Deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. This is also a reprint we've seen again. It's a shock that you can pick where the damage goes.
Next is Chandra's Triumph. 2 mana instant. Chandra's Triumph deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker and opponent controls. And then Chandra's Triumph deals 5 damage to that permanent instead if you control a Chandra planeswalker.
So it's a lightning strike that can't hit a player, and then it's better if you have a Chandra. And next isn't necessarily a removal spell, but it's worth noting that it is in the format. It's Cyclops Electromancer, a 5 mana 4/2 creature. And when it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to target creature and opponent controls, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard.
Next is Heartfire, a 2 mana instant, and as an additional cost to cast a spell, you sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker, but in doing so, Heartfire deals 4 damage to any target, so it can just be a finisher.
Next we have Jaya's Greeting, which is a 2 mana instant, and it deals 3 damage to target creature and then scry 1.
Next is Nahiri's Stoneblades, 2 mana instant. Up to 2 target creatures each get +2/+0 until end of turn. And the thing to note is that if your opponent's playing red, it is common, so it is possible that they could have this in multiples to have lethal.
It's basically 2 mana 4 damage if the creatures aren't blocked.
Okay.
Next we have Samet's Sprint, a 1 mana instant. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains haste, and then you scry 1. So it's 1 mana, swing with the creature.
Next is Sarkhan's Catharsis, 5 mana instant. Sarkhan's Catharsis deals 5 damage to target player or planeswalker, so it's basically just Lava X.
Yep, it's Lava X at instant speed this time.
Yep.
Does not hit creatures, is worth noting. And we're going to move on to green, which doesn't have too many combat tricks. First we have Awakening of Vitu-Ghazi, which is a 5 mana instant, and it says put 9 +1/+1 counters on target land you control. Becomes a legendary 0/0 elemental named Vitu-Ghazi, and it's still a land. So remember that black card that removes all counters? Oh no, it removes 5, doesn't it?
Yeah, it removes 5.
Never mind, YouTube.
But it does have haste, so that is something else. So if you do have to remember that if they played that land, this is a real card.
Yep.
Next
all of
is,
a sudden they can have a 9/9 in combat.
Yep. Next is Band Together. It's a 3 mana instant. Up to 2 target creatures you control each deal damage equal to their power to another target creature. So the thing to think is it's not a fight mechanic. They deal their damage equal to their power to something else.
Next is Forced Landing, which is a 2 mana instant and puts target creature with flying on the bottom of its owner's library. So you're not going to play this in your main deck, but if you see flyers like the white deck, you're going to put this in.
Next is something that we've seen printed quite a few times, Giant Growth. 1 mana instant, target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. It's just an all-around good pump spell for green creatures.
And then next is Steady Aim, which is a 2-mana instant. Untap target creature. It gets +1/+4 and gains reach until end of turn. It's not too likely it's going to be used to kill something, but just block something profitably.
Next is Storm the Citadel, a 5-mana sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. This probably ends up being a sideboard card if you think that somebody is playing a lot of planeswalkers or artifacts or enchantments.
Could also just be an overrun card. And then finally, we're going to end with the multicolored cards. So first we've got Angrath's Rampage. It's a 2-mana instant, or 2-mana sorcery, which is red and black. And it says choose one. Target player sacrifices an artifact or creature or planeswalker. It's a really good removal spell. It's an uncommon, so you're going to play it in this format.
Next is Casualties of War. It's 6 mana. It is 2 green, 2 black, and 2 generic. It is a sorcery, but for that, you get to choose one or more. So the fact that you get to either destroy target artifact, destroy target creature, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, destroy target planeswalker, or choose all of them is pretty good.
And next is Death Sprout, which is another Golgari spell. It's green, 2 black, and 1, and it's an instant. Destroy target creature, search your library for a basic land card, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So this is Murder and Rampant Growth in one card.
Next is Domri's Ambush. It is 1 green, 1 red. It's a sorcery. You get to put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Then that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So it can be a functionally removal spell.
Then next we have Dovin's Veto, which is possibly... It's going to be one of the better counterspells ever printed, I think. It's 1 blue, 1 white. It can't be countered, and it counters a non-creature spell. And it's an uncommon. So if you've got an opponent playing blue-white, it's pretty likely they've got this card in the deck.
Next is Enter the God Eternals. It is a 5-mana spell. It's a sorcery. But when Enter the God Eternals... Enter the God Eternals deals 4 damage to target creature, and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, then you amass 4. A lot of text, but it does a lot of things.
Yeah, it's dealing damage, probably killing a creature, gaining life, milling 4, and making a 4/4.
Yep.
Or growing something by 4/4.
And for 5 mana, it's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. If you open it and you can make a blue-black deck work, it's going to be in there. Next, we've got Oath of Kaya, which is a legendary enchantment, 1 black, 1 white, 1 generic. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. And then whenever an opponent attacks a planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, Oath of Kaya deals 2 damage to that player and you gain 2 life.
Next is Pledge of Unity. It's 1 white, 1 green, and 1 generic. It is an instant. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. You gain 1 life for each creature you control. So it is a combat trick. You can play it on either side, in their turn or your own.
If you want profitable blocks, or if you just want to push damage. Then next we've got Ral's Outburst. It's an instant. It's red, blue, and 2. It deals 3 damage to any target. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put 1 into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So this is a really good spell. It deals damage and it replaces itself. You actually get some selection out of it.
Next is Solar Blaze. It's 1 white, 1 red, 2 generic. It is a sorcery, and each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So a thing to note is that if you are playing creatures that their power is less than their defense, it's pretty good because people will be trying to play 3/2s.
Next we've got Time Wipe, which is a blue, 2 white, and 2 generic spell. It's a sorcery, and it returns a creature you control to its owner's hand and then destroys all creatures. So this is a board wipe, but save one of my own kind of a spell.
Next is Tyrant Scorn. 1 blue, 1 black. It is an instant. You choose 1. Destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less, or return target creature to its owner's hand. So if it's 3 or less, you're gonna kill it. If it's more, you're gonna bounce it.
Yep. And then last, we've got Widespread Brutality. 2 red, 1 black, 1 generic. Sorcery. Amass 2, then the army you amassed deals damage equal to its power to each non-army creature. So it's a Rakdos pseudo board wipe. Just depends on how big the creature you've got is. And that's it for our pre-release primer, I guess we'll call it. Thanks for watching, and subscribe.